Thank you for joining today's session, everyone, which is entitled Transform SAP Output and Ditch PDF Attachments. Please note that your microphones are all muted, so if you have any questions, please use the Q&A area at the bottom of the screen. We will pick up all the questions at the end of the presentation. We're going to get started now, so I'd like to hand over to today's speaker, Chris Scott.
Thank you, Kate. My name is Chris Scott, and once again, I am joined by Kate Tereshchenko and Henry Blythe, the Arch CEO. And welcome to this, the second session in our Floe webinar series. In the previous webinar, I covered the business case and the introduction to Floe. I discussed the SAP email problem and how Floe can help enormously by enabling organizations to transform internal and external email communication. So if you haven't seen that yet, it is available on demand, and hopefully you all have the link already. But basically, I won't be repeating any of the content from the last session today. Once again, I'm expecting the session to last less than an hour, including time for questions and answers. So today we're going to focus on SAP Output, including financial correspondence, like account statements, and document output, like purchase order output. I will walk through the creation of a sales order confirmation email step by step and discuss what tasks can be performed by business users and IT users. I will show how Floe emails can replace PDF attachments as a document of record and be stored on the SAP database, saved to a file server or printed. And once again, I will be performing live demos throughout so that you can see everything is real. And of course, with live demos, there's always a chance that we might run into unperceived difficulties. So let's hope everything runs smoothly. So my objective today is to demonstrate in practical terms how you can start to replace SAP scripts, Mark Forms, and Adobe Forms with dynamic SAP emails. As I described last time, Floe is delivered as an API, i.e. a function module, and can be triggered from anywhere. In the main use cases, Floe is triggered either from an SAP workflow step, or from a print program, or from the mass correspondence tool that is included as part of Floe. In all cases, the Floe API constructs the email and passes it to the SAP Business Communication Service, which in turn routes it to an outbound SMTP server. But today I'm going to start by looking at how we trigger Floe for document output using a print program. So I'm going to look in detail at how the sales order output using Floe. So hopefully some of you will be familiar with output determination using the condition technique. I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but the condition technique uses what we call a print program, because traditionally these programs were designed for getting output to printers. So although I use the term print program, don't imagine that we're sending anything to a printer. It's just the program that collects the data and triggers Floe. So in this example, we're going to use a custom print program that calls the Floe API. In the output configuration, we need to link an output type to this print program and to the email type that we will define inside Floe. So that's the key link, is that output type to print program and email type. The first thing we need is a print program for sales order output, and we provide that on the Floe wiki. So you can download the file and import it into a program in your own SAP system. This is a one-off task, and we will be increasing the number of print programs we provide over time. It's quite likely that you already have changes to the delivered standard print programs, in which case you just need to add in the parts from the version we deliver that relate to Floe. And in any case, you might need to tweak the programs we provide based on the version of SAP you're running. But really, either way, that should only be around 30 minutes work for a developer. So then we need to configure a new email type inside Floe, inside the SAP IMG. Email types are grouped into categories. At this stage, we just need to give the email type a name, a subject, and a sender address. And that will be enough to get us started. And then we'll configure an output type in the sales and distribution, the logistics configuration, to point to the print program and to the email type. And we do that just using a normal configuration screen. So that's where we're going to start. So I'll start by getting those basics in place. So I'll open up SAP here. So I've got a version of ECC in front of me. It's an IDES system, and which means it's got some data inside that I can use for testing. I'm going to start by setting up a new email type inside Floe. Floe lives inside general application functions. And I'm going to go ahead and maintain email types. As you can see, you've got some email categories. I'll choose the demo email category, open up email types, and I'll create a new one. And I'll call that 0104. And I'll put the demo category. I need a sender address. And a subject. The two subjects here you see actually the short email subject is the subject you see inside the SOST transaction, and the long email subject is the one that the recipient actually sees. So it's really the second of these that we're interested in. So I'll save that, and that will give me an email type inside Floe, inside the Floe backend. So this is the kind of thing that an analyst would do for us. And then I'm going to go to the SD configuration, sales and distribution, and find the output configuration screens. And maintain output types. And in fact, I've already got an output type waiting down here. ZFL1. We'll go to the processing routines. Ignore the top and the bottom. It's the external send medium. These are 3D configurable, so you can use whatever you want. But for our purposes, I'm using medium external send. I'm going to just go into edit mode here. And so you can see that this particular output type is linking to this print program. I'm going to put my email type into this field here. The print program, I could just double click on there. It's a copy, a clone of the standard program that SAP provides with the added integration to Floe. So most of this is exactly as delivered by SAP. So I'm going to save that now. And so I've created the basic configuration now. I've got my output type pointing to my email type. And so that's That's how the output type in a sales order is going to trigger the particular email type that we're going to create some content for inside Floe. The next thing we think about is the business logic for this particular email type. And the way the Floe API works is it collects data, collects the email template and other information and puts everything together to construct the email. And so the kind of logic that we see it doing is determining data, determining the recipient, the communication language, figuring out what template to use. Maybe we need attachments, maybe we need some embedded images, put everything together and construct the email. At each point of this in this process, we can add our own business logic to impact what Floe does. We do that using user exit. The only one I'm worried about today is the data user exit. So in some cases, we pass in all the data we want into the call to Floe. And in other cases, we might pass in a single document number or a master data reference number, and then inside the user exit, Floe will collect all the data that is needed for the email. So when we use the user exits for basically simple ABAP blocks to do these selections to collect the data we need. And so this means that we've got the capability to programmatically override SAP data and the templates to dynamically create tailored emails at runtime. Because, for example, I might have specific logic for different types of recipient in there. So one customer group might get some different content to a different customer group. I would manage that inside these user exit blocks. So these user exits are email type specific, and so we need to add our data for a particular email type. So in this particular case, all the data from the sales order will get passed into Floe, and then we can use our email data user exit to add our own logic over and above that information that's passed in, if you like, for free. And there are a whole bunch of different reasons we might do that. So firstly, it might be to combine fields together, like for addresses. Secondly, it could be to select some additional information that isn't supplied by the print program, such as data from custom tables. Thirdly, it might be that the data that SAP returns are the code, and we want to look up descriptions for things where we've only been given the code for whatever the object might be by the print program. So we might want to do some additional selections. Fourthly, we may want to reformat some of the data provided so that it's human readable. So for example, dates, quantities to get rid of all the trailing zeros, currencies, so that instead of seeing GBP, we see a pound symbol, those kind of, so we've got the data we want, we just want to transform it so it's going to look nicer inside the email. We might want to change field names because the field names that SAP delivers are very technical. We may wish, whether for business users, to see those field names to change them so that they're more user-friendly for those business users if they're building their own email content. And finally, we might want to add some dummy data for testing so that we can trigger an email for testing without going through the process of creating a sales order. So that's something I always do to make the kind of unit testing of the email much easier. So actually that sounds quite complicated, but it's all really easy. A lot of this logic can be reused for different email types. Once you've got a routine to reformat the date, we just use that for all the date fields. So it's really all quite straightforward. So now I'm going to go back to Floe, generate my user exits for my email type, add some dummy data, and add some logic to convert dates and quantities and currency symbols to make them more readable. So I go back up to Floe inside the ING, and before we were maintaining email types, now we're going to maintain email type user exits. So now in this tree, I can open up and I should see my email type, and I can click on that, choose generate user exits, and nobody watch while I make this a local object. Don't have any developers. I'm doing that. So I get a bunch of user exits now that have been generated for my email type, and it's the email data user exits that I'm interested in. Now, to speed things along a little bit, I'm going to steal some code from one I did yesterday, so that you're not just watching me type in ABAP. There's a couple of function calls I need to put in there. And what the first function call does is create some test data for me if there's no data supplied by a sales order. And the second function reformats fields like date fields. I'll just activate this user exit. And then for example, if I go into this sales data one, we can see that I'm putting in name, Chris, and the customer number. And so I'm using the same fields that SAP would provide, but I'm putting in some dummy data in order to do some testing. So of course, this is a job for a developer, and that's specific to the document type we're working with. The second function is a bit more generic, but we're using the field names that SAP provides, and this you might add to over time. So I've created my email type, and I've added some user exits to pre-populate some dummy data, and also to transform the data that's supplied by SAP into human readable information. So now I've finished my backend setup. So that consisted of some IMG configuration and some simple ABAP user exit work. So that's the job of the business analyst and the developer over really. That's something that IT would do for the initial build of a particular email for a particular type of document output. The other thing that IT can provide is a list of variables. So effectively then the rest of the design could be done by a business user rather than a technical user. And so in this case, I've chosen a list of fields from an SAP sales order that I'm going to include in my email. And so I'm going to give this list of fields to the business user. And so one way of doing that is actually to do that inside in my email type in order to be able to unit test the email. So let's go ahead and do that. So now I need to go to my email builder. If I refresh the screen, hopefully I'll find my new email type in the list. Here we go, OR04. Because it's a new email type, it asks me for the basic dimensions, the boilerplate, if you like, and I'm going to choose a slightly wider design here, 800 pixels wide, and as the first language, and so I'm going to keep this in English to start off. So I've got a completely empty email type here, and again, just to speed things up, rather than typing that information in, I'll drag in some information from the library that I created yesterday, just putting those exactly the same list of fields. So here, this could be done by an analyst or an IT person, basically showing to the business user the various different fields that are up for grabs. It might be that the first time we do the email design, it's done by somebody more technical, and thereafter business users can pick it up and tweak it, and make changes to text, etc. But of course, in something like document output, there are a lot of different fields, as you might expect, and so you need to be somewhat knowledgeable about where the data is coming from inside SAP. So I'm going to save this now. So I've now got, as you can see, just some technical data inside this email type. What I can do is unit test this. I can test this using my dummy data, and so if I use my test function here, I can just close this down and preview this, and it should bring in the dummy data now that I set up in the back end. So I can see I've got 3 different items. There's the name, order number. So I can be happy with it, the various different fields I've defined in that email type correspond with the variables I've filled in the back end user exit. So now I have the raw data available to me in the email builder, so I can start putting together my email template. And that, of course, can include branding, images, social media links, and promotional information, as well as the actual core data from SAP. So here I can ensure my corporate standards for branding and communications are being followed, and try to create a compelling email that provides that delightful experience to the recipient. So I go back to my email builder, and I'll open up that same email type again. And now I'll put some different content in there that looks a bit more appealing. Again, for the purpose of this, I could just delete this rather than maintaining that manually, and start dragging in some content from the library. I'm going to start off with a header block there. And then a bit of email text. And then a little panel with some basic information like the order number and customer number. There's a little block to start off my repeating section of items. And then I've got that item block, which is pretty much exactly as I was given it before. some totals I can add in under the items here. Some links. I'll just put these anywhere at the moment. Banner. Social media. And finally, disclaimer. So now I'll just rearrange these. I'll put the disclaimer in twice. Rearrange these fields now. Okay, so I think I've got everything that I want there. Header section, some text, so an information panel, item header, repeating data. In fact, there's a nested repeating data as well for schedule lines, subtotals, some links, a banner, social media, disclaimer. Those are the kind of things we might want to see in the email, and then I can save that. So, of course, this is actually where most of the time should be spent. Obviously, it's really quick if you did it all yesterday, but in practice, arranging these fields, getting everything lined up, that's where the time is going to be spent. Of course, also, it's something that is just done using our rich text editor. So it's like Microsoft Word and basically arranging fields inside a table in Word. So it is something that that business users or expert users should be able to do. So they should be able to take ownership of this email template at some point. So it may be at this point, or it may have been before this point once the field has been provided to them. Okay. So I've saved that already, and let's go back to the slides. So now I've got our email type with all the data inside the field inside it rather. I should be able to go ahead and test this. So let's do this properly this time using a new sales order. So I'm going to go to my create sales order transaction. Actually, again for speed, copy in an old order from the system to get information in there a bit more quickly. So we can see I've got sell two parties, ship two parties the same. I've got two separate materials, quantity of 20 and 10. Looks like I've got confirmation dates for the top item, not the bottom one. Let me put in some additional data. Go to purchase order data on the header. Now I can put in, I'm not sure which of these fields I'm using, BO number 123 or my reference number 456. One of those two fields I've used in the email output. I've forgotten which one. And I'll go ahead and save this now. So I've got a new sales order here, 14620, and in fact, if I go back and display that, and go to my output, I can see that email, that the output type, that FL1 has been successfully processed. So what that means is it sent me an email, so I can just exit this and open up my Outlook client, and here it is, right, and I can open that up. And so we can see now I've got the information from that sales order, the customer reference, that's the purchase order number I typed in. We've got the items data, the repeating data, nested repeating data coming from the schedule lines. I also added in some images as well to based on the product ID, just to show that we can put that kind of dynamic image in there. We've got our totals and the rest of it as you might expect. This really kind of replaces the entire output that we might normally build using SAP script or Adobe Forms, etc. All the information I need is here in the body of the email. I don't need any additional PDF attachment. So now I'm going to talk about some common requirements that we might have, starting with previewing the email. And so actually that's something that again is controlled by the print program, and so that we could just go into sales order, change or display, and use the standard print preview option. So that's something easily demonstratable. I go back to this sales order, I display or change. I should be able to go to the output here and just go to preview. And so because I'm on a Windows 10 machine, this is this looks a bit strange, but that's something to do with settings on my PC, the way it's all kind of scrunched up here in the middle. But normally you would see a good representation of what the email looked like in there. I don't know why it looks like that today. So for print preview, kind of should just work for free if you like, without any additional coding. One of the options we actually saw right at the beginning when I set the email type up was whether I wanted to save the email or not. And so I don't think I've chose that option, but we can go back and change that now. The standard option with the SAP for emails is that they just get cleared out of SOST periodically, so there's no permanent record of emails that were sent. But with Floe, we can see saved emails using the email history report, and we can choose by email type, do I want to save them inside the database, the entire email, or just the report of what was sent to whom. So even if you don't save the email each time, you can at least have the basics to see that, that a certain communication was sent to different recipients. So let's go ahead and look at that. First of all, I'll show the history report. So now I'm in the application side of SAP. I'm going to open Floe up, and there's the view email history report. I'll just put our new email type in here. And there was only one ever been sent, and so I can see that, that this was the ID that we gave to this particular email. I can see who it went to, and various other pieces of information. What I can't see in this is that it was saved. Well, I can see that it wasn't saved. So what I'm going to do now is go back, change the configuration to save this type of email, and then we should be able to reproduce it from the email history report. So I'll go back to the IMG. Back to my email types configuration option. And then in we go here, and I can choose to store the email body, and if that email did have an attachment to it, I could store the attachments as well. Sometimes I'm sending the same attachment to multiple people, so it might be, for example, a separate newsletter or a change to terms and conditions, so a single PDF sent to 10,000 people, in which case I wouldn't want to save that attachment 10,000 times, so I would keep that blank. Other scenarios, maybe it's a dynamic attachment, and I would want to keep a permanent record. In this case, I'll just click that top option and save. So now, of course, what I need to do is generate a new email. So we'll go back to sales order again and create a new one. Let's do the same kind of thing as before, full speed. And save. Again, that's in process. And again, if I open up my Outlook, I can see that it's arrived already. Now I'll go back to my email history report. On the same type. So now I can see that I've got a new email ID in here. So again, this email has been saved with a particular ID. This time I've saved the entire email actually in the SAP content server, just in a database table effectively, but I should be able to display the email. And again, today Windows 10 has squished it up. So that's how we can save emails with a unique ID inside the database and then retrieve them later. Another common requirement is for dynamic content. So, for example, show a different logo based on, for example, the sales organization. So we're really strong on this, and there are at least 3 different ways we can support it. The most simple approach is to store multiple content blocks when we create the email type, to create one block with one logo and a second block with a different logo, and then add some logic to show or hide the different block based on, in that example, the sales order. Alternatively, we can use a variable for the image and fill the variable in the data user exit, and that's how I made those item level images be shown based on the material code. So in that case, there's only a single block, but at design time you don't see the image. You just see a reference, and then you've got to add the image path in the code. Thirdly, we can use a different user exit, template user exit, and manipulate the HTML post generation. And so that's a bit more tricky, and so but the particular use cases you might want to do that, but in general the other options are a lot simpler. But I'm going to cover dynamic content in the fourth webinar in the series because it can be really powerful, and so I want to devote more time to it. But that's how we tailor emails for each recipient. But for those of you already using Floe Email Builder, we have a demo on the wiki that shows all three approaches available for download and import into your own system. So that everything you need is already out there, and you can kind of copy and paste to see exactly how those three different approaches work. Our customers always ask us about printing, and they ask us about printing our forms, printing apps, printing emails, and of course that's not what Floe is for. Floe is for generating the email and sending it. We don't then print the email at the server end because it's an email, not a letter. Recipients, however, can manually print the email either directly from their email client or from a web browser. And both ways they look absolutely fine. Recipients can also save the file locally, either as an email or as a PDF, again, just using their email client. So we don't have any plan to support server-side printing for Floe. Floe is about generating emails, not creating print output. Now, there are scenarios where you still want a PDF to be sent with the email. So even though using Floe, we can get rid of a lot of the PDF attachments and put the information inside the body of the email instead. Some customers still want to supply PDF invoices, for example. But right now, Floe doesn't create PDFs itself, so you need to create that PDF and then attach it to the email. That means you need to manage a PDF template in another way, like using Adobe Forms. And the easiest way to do that is actually using our Forms product, Varro, because the print program we supply already includes the integration for PDF generation using Varro. But you don't have to do that. You can use any approach you like. But of course, if you don't use that approach, you will need to do a little bit of extra development inside the print program to effectively generate the PDF and then pass it into Floe. The Varro way I can demonstrate very easily. So I'll go back, starting in the IMG again. And so I'm going to go back to my sales order output configuration. Further down here again. Back to my output type. And here we are. And I go to change. And so again, to remind you, this is the configuration entry we're interested in. This is saying use this print program, this entry point for the print program, use this email type, and I can go ahead here and say, and also use this form type. So in this case, the print program is going to assume that this is a Varro form type and attach it automatically to my email. So of course, I have to design that form type in Varro, something I've done already, and so I can again go ahead and test this straight away. Again, I'll create myself an order with the same data in it. And I should just save. And then hopefully we should see that arrive. That's the previous one. There's a new one to the right here, and I can see it's got an attachment. And so again, this is the email type as before. I didn't put a purchase order number in this time, so there's no customer reference. I do have an attachment. I open that attachment. I use a different template for this. Yeah. And so let's make that slightly bigger. So here this looks, this is kind of a PDF version of the same information exactly that I can attach along with the email. Another common requirement with output documents is to send the document to an external document server. The easiest place to do that, again, is in the print program, where you can add your own code and create an index and pass that index and the HTML file returned by Floe through SAP Archive link. So it's just like any other document archive, but in our case, the file type is HTML, unless you've got a PDF attachment that you want to archive instead. So that needs a little bit of development, but nothing unusual. I've not got a demo on that today. Really, the final requirement I'm going to talk about is converting the email itself to a PDF. And if we're able to do that, it means that we don't need to manage a separate template for the PDF document, but use Floe Email Builder for everything. So the email builder we can use to design the email body and also the attachment. Right now, that's only possible with a third-party product with a little bit of development. Basically, you can't do it inside SAP, but there are people out there who provide a service in the cloud to convert HTML content to PDF. So that's something else, something extra you have to pay for. And of course, the benefit is then you don't have to manage multiple output templates with different technologies. It's actually our intention to offer this additional service ourselves, something we're working on right now, and hopefully will be available by the end of the year. And of course, when we deliver it, it will be fully integrated, so there will be no extra development required at all. So watch this space. I hope to be able to announce something, as I say, by the end of the year. So today I focused on document output, which tends to be associated more with logistics processes. Of course, the same applies to financial correspondence, where we trigger different types of outputs, customers or suppliers typically. I've got a simple demo for a vendor payment output, so you can see how Floe could be used to replace SAP scripts in financial correspondence. And I'll quickly run through that. So let's start off here. I've got a custom output program, correspondence program. Okay, and that. So it's pretty simple, the old data. Let's just give this a bit of context. So when we're managing a payment run inside SAP, typically we do it through this transaction. Again, I just found some old data inside this SAP system that I could use. And so this particular payment run, the whole thing's been processed actually. But what we see, what financial users would see in this particular transaction, are different types of, and again, I'm going to call them print programs to manage the output for different media. So this is perfectly normal for us to add configuration behind the screen to determine what type of output program comes into the list. So what we've done is just taken the standard program for creating the payment output, which in fact uses a SAP script, and copied that to add in the call for Floe API. Basically, on the selection screen, I've added in two fields, an email type and send immediately. The rest of it is exactly as you'd expect. If I run it without the Floe integration, there's a few errors, but basically it creates me something on the spool. And again, I've not changed anything. This is exactly as SAP deliver it. So it's a SAP script. Can I make that any bigger? And Windows 10 has decided to scrunch everything up today, so I can't zoom in on that. I'll do this. Oh, nope, can't even get the zoom function to work. Okay, anyway, it's a SAP script ready for being printed. That's what you kind of get out of there for by default. If I now just add in my my email type for Floe, all I'm doing is putting in an email type here and send immediately, and I execute that. Then it tells me my email type was sent by email. There is only one in this list actually. So exit out of here, go back to my my Outlook. Here it is. And so now I can see all the same information that was in that script. It addresses the list of documents, the totals, are now inside the body of the email. So again, very, very small amount of development to add in the call to Floe on a cloned version of that program, and then you could just use Floe in the same way to create financial outputs. Okay, finally, to summarize. So today we have seen how to build a powerful email with ease. Emails define the customer experience. With Floe, you can transform the SAP communication both inside the organization and beyond. Floe provides a new approach for SAP outputs, which shifts the focus from the printed form or the attached PDF to the email itself. And we save that inside the SAP system with a unique document number. And that enables us to ditch PDF attachments. The email has become the document of record. We've also seen that emails can be tailored for different recipients by adding dynamic logic. And we've seen how business users can take ownership of the SAP output and make changes without involving IT. This means that the email templates can be constantly changed much more regularly. For example, marketing banners or sales promotions or website links, again, without any need to involve IT. So I hope you found today's session informative and interesting. Of course, I hope you're interested in Floe and possible next steps. And there are several options, just like last time. We'd love you to try Floe for yourself, and we've got a system you can access via the web and play with the Floe email builder, create your own email types. So using that, there's nothing to install. We just provide you a user and log on, and away you go. And there's a form on the Floe website through which you can request access. Of course, you don't get to access your own data, only our test data. The other option is to install the software on your own SAP system for a 60-day free trial, and we're happy to use the product however you want, even in production. Again, there's a request form on the website. Just fill that in, and we send you the software, installation guide, and everything else you need to get going. And of course, there's another webinar in the series, and in the next webinar, I'll do a deep dive into SAP workflow notifications with Floe. Again, I will send everybody an invitation to the next session. So there's no need to register again. And of course, finally, there's lots more information on the website, floe.com. So I realise I've taken up almost all the time, but I'll hand over to Kate to see if we've got time to cover any questions before we finish.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to everybody who joined. We would love to hear your thoughts, so if there are any questions you might have, please put them down in the Q&A below. You can also contact us through our website, floe.com, or by responding to the webinar invitation you've received earlier. So I'll just begin with one question. There's a question from Josie. She's asking, how long will it take to implement this solution?
Well, to get going is really, really quickly. It's a fast job, but of course, it depends just how complex your output requirements are. So if you have an existing SAP script that for 80 countries and 4,000 lines of code, then that's going to take a longer amount of time to reproduce that same logic inside Floe. Equally, if you've got something that's pretty standard, you're looking to simplify what you've got and get something out that without so much dynamic logic inside, then we're talking about a very small number of days.
Thanks, Chris. There's another one from Mary. How do I get skilled up as a partner?
So, well, basically contact us. So we do offer training for free for SAP partners, and we've got a partner program. And so just contact us, and we can get you going. So, and we'll be delighted to.
Great, thank you. So if there are any more questions, please reach out. Any thoughts you might have as well on what you've seen and any other questions about Floe. And I think that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you again for everybody who joined us, and we hope you join again next time.